This is Spencer from Ice Nine Kills, and you're listening to Louder.
So I'm here with Spencer of Ice Nine Kills. Finally made it to UK. How are you, man?
I'm great. It's been years hearing from, overseas from our fans, please come to the UK, come to Germany, come to Amsterdam, come to France, and now that we're finally doing it, it's turning out even better than I could have expected. Anytime it's your first time playing in an area, you never know what to expect, and just comparing these shows, like these first shows to our first American shows ever, it's like night and day how dedicated the kids are here, and singing every word to every song we wrote. So it's great.
You've been working the ground up for the last almost 10 years, I think.
Yeah, I started the band in high school, and it was definitely, I was serious about it, but it didn't get really started with a proper album until about 2006. So, yeah, it's been about 10 years.
Yeah, and you've been taking your time, picking your labels, and now finally with Fearless, decided to push you over the pond. So what actually made you decide that now is the time?
To come to the UK?
Yeah, UK and Europe as well.
We have wanted to go for the last couple years. There were, maybe one or two offers, but it wasn't the right tour. And as much as, we don't obviously do this for the money, the other offers, we would be just so in over our heads financially. And finally, we found, an agency, and our manager really pushed to sort of put this tour together, and it felt like the right time. So we were very excited to learn that, hey, we're actually going to get to do this.
So without the rehearsed answer, how is it actually compared to your expectations?
It's so far, we're only 3 shows in, but it has definitely exceeded my expectations. Kids seem very fanatical about the band over here, and I think that oftentimes anticipation for something can hype it up even more. So I think that the fact that we've sort of not been able to tour over here for so many years, I think has increased the hype of Ice Nine Kills over here. So I think that's almost working to our advantage.
Oh, that sounds great. And how's your voice treating you with the jet lag and the crazy weather here?
It's definitely getting a little bit tired, just because it was a long day of traveling where we basically went through the night. So I personally can't sleep on an airplane. So I got maybe like an hour of sleep, combined from like nodding off in the terminals to maybe getting 20 minutes here or there on the plane. We flew into Iceland, and from Iceland we flew into Heathrow. And the cold and lack of sleep can definitely take a toll on your voice. But honestly, if we're playing a show and the kids are so into the music and into the lyrics and just all about what we do, you pull through and you make it happen. At least I think so. I don't know how I sounded, but I hope I sounded all right.
Well, you passed my test.
Okay, good.
So if anybody ever heard more than one song of yours or watched a video, then they should know that you guys are into horror films, or at least scary bits. So coming to England, the home of Jack the Ripper and many other films that were filmed here, are you going to try and combine your tour with finding some of those sets?
Yes, I had found out where the first Jack the Ripper victim was found, somewhere in London. I have the address, obviously, I have the address written down, so we're going to go and try and check that out. I've heard that the museum, the wax sculptures is
Madame Tussauds.
Exactly. I know the lines are very long, but I hear they have some cool horror exhibits.
And you have the London Dungeon.
The London Dungeon with the torture stuff. We've been told that's really cool.
You can have a day off in London.
Unfortunately, we don't, which is one of the bummers of this tour, that we really are pretty much just playing straight. We only have 1 day off the entire tour. So when we get to London, we're going to try to, sound check and then get the hell out of there and go explore as much as we can.
So we've mentioned films, but recently got exposed, you guys are into reading as well. I mean, I know that the band is named after that substance from, was it Cat's Cradle?
Correct.
So you guys are into books, but reading, was it 11 books for the new album, every trick in the book. So how do you guys divide the reading? Who was in charge of that? How did it work? Or were you actually cheating and watching the film?
Well, basically, most of the books I had read at some point in my life, but obviously when going back and writing the lyrics to the album, we wanted it to be really true to the work. And these are not just throwaway books, these are classic novels that have stood the test of time for a reason. So we paid a particular attention to making sure the lyrics really rang true to the stories. So it involved, rereading stuff. If there was a book that I was a bit foggy on, I reread the entire thing, went through online synopsises, read through what people took away from the book, what other theories were about what this meant, and that's how we kind of put it together.
So, were you in charge of all the reading, just by yourself?
No, our producer, Steve Sobchak, he works out of Syracuse, New York. He and I write the lyrics together, so we kind of tag teamed it and went through each story. Rewatched some of the books were made into films, so rewatched those, just to sort of get into the spirit of the whole thing. And it didn't feel like a chore. It actually felt like a really exciting project that was just really gratifying to be a part of.
So on a night off, would you prefer reading a book or watching a film?
I think on a night off I would like to either go to the movies or watch a scary movie. But I find that reading can be a great thing to do in seemingly boring situations. Like if you're on a train or you have a long drive, as long as you're not driving, of course, or you're on a plane, that's when I find reading is the best. That's the best environment for it because it's an escape from reality. And, you're not always in a situation where you can turn on the TV or put a film in. And reading you could pretty much do wherever. So you don't need electricity to read it.
So can I guess that you're into old-fashioned books and not a Kindle or anything like that?
Old-fashioned, yeah.
Okay.
Something about the feeling and the smell of the pages,
We're going to come up with something that's going to give you that as well in a bit.
Right.
I don't know if many know, but you're the only founding member of Iceland Kills now.
Yes.
So I was wondering, since you guys are supposedly all into films and horror films, so every time you audition a new member, did you ask them if they're into horror films as well? Was that part of the deal?
If you don't like horror films, we want nothing to do with you in this band. I'm just kidding, but it definitely, it's like with anything, with a company or with us, with like a band or a social group or a gang, you want people to be like-minded. So it's important to us when we bring a new member in that they share, similar interests.
And I know not many British people know, but the Salem witch hunt is really close to where you were born. So is that part of why you got into horror
I
films,
live in Salem now, actually.
Do you move to Salem?
Yes, I moved to Salem.
Okay. I thought you grew up just outside of Salem. So
I grew up in a town called Swampscott, Massachusetts, which is a bordering town of Salem.
Okay.
And about 4 or 5 years ago, I moved to Salem proper.
just to get closer to the muse.
Just to get closer to the weirdness. It's a great town. Obviously, there's a dark history that comes along with the town. And you can go see where the witches were hanged, and there are a lot of museums dedicated to the history of the whole thing. And I think that it definitely, my proximity to that location growing up, I think definitely fueled my love for the macabre, so to speak.
And I know the last tour in the US was kind of themed like a prom night.
Yes, the last tour that we did was called the Hell in the Hallways tour, which was from our song Hell in the Hallways, which is based on Stephen King's Carrie.
Yeah.
So, when we were coming up with, we got a new tour, we got a headlining tour, I thought it would be a really cool idea, since the video had just come out, let's call the tour Hell in the Hallways, and let's make it like a real prom. And we encouraged our fans to dress up in tuxes and dresses, and every night we crowned a king and queen. and we dressed like we were a band from the 70s at the prom. And we, decorated the venue every day with balloons and streamers, and it was a risky idea because it sounds kind of weird and a little bit campy for, a heavy band to do something like that. But our fans are really smart. Clearly they're reading. Now they are if they didn't before. And everyone just really kind of embraced the idea, and it seemed to be a real success. I wish we could have taken it to UK and Europe, but we were limited on what we could do with production, and we didn't want to sort of do it, halfway. We wanted to either do the whole theme or not. So unfortunately, we couldn't bring that theme over here, but someday.
Proms are not really big in the UK.
That's what I also heard too. So it might not have really made as much sense.
Yeah. So did you go to your prom?
I did go to my prom. It was kind of underwhelming.
Okay. Were you the king or?
I was not the king, but I was voted most likely to be famous. But I guess maybe I'm like a Z-list celebrity, so I don't think I really made it famous quite yet, but we'll see how it goes. You know what? I don't think we even had a prom king and queen.
Okay.
I think that as the whole bullying thing started to really sweep the world, high school, shootings, like terrible things like Columbine happen, I think that they kind of stopped doing that kind of stuff with kings and queens because it sort of highlighted, oh, well, these kids are popular and these kids aren't good enough. So I think that some American schools, after those sort of terrible occurrences in like the late 90s, like Columbine, as I said, I think they started to push away from that for that very reason.
So how were you in high school?
How was I?
Were you're not the quarterback?
I was not a quarterback, but I did play sports. I played hockey. I played goalie from about 12 years old through high school, and the other goalie on my team was always a little bit better than me, and he turned out to be in the NHL. He plays for the Devils now. His name's Corey Schneider.
Nice.
So that's always.
To him.
I lost to him, I guess, but it's always funny, if we continue on the path that we're continuing on, that we're heading in the right direction. That hockey team had two goalies. One is, a famous NHL player, and the other's a musician. So that's kind of cool.
So, Spencer, anything else you want to add to fans and listeners?
Just thanks so much for sticking with the band for so long, even though it has taken us many, many years to come over here. We really appreciate it, and we can't wait to come back again.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.